Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, depending on where you are joining. Welcome to this very exciting webcast, Leading with Impact, Harnessing the True Power of Advanced Communication. I'm Vlad, an ethical influence, negotiation, and relationship coach. And my guest today is Brett Mabberley. And Brett is an international advanced communication specialist and founder of Interpersonal Insights. He works with ambitious professionals from the world of business, the entertainment industry, and elite sports. Brett has dedicated the last 20 years to mastering the art of science of human behavior. And through his flagship program, the People Intelligence Accelerator, he consults and teaches his clients how to develop and apply the cutting-edge set of people skills and advanced strategies. These skills and strategies enable people to communicate with impact, connect with others on a deeper level, and maximize the earning potential. Brett's clients range from international entrepreneurs, lawyers, financial advisors, psychologists, coaches, and salespeople. In addition, Brett offers his private one-on-one services and works with Fortune 500 CEOs, elite athletes, and Hollywood actors. Brian, it's such a delight to have a conversation with you here today. Thank you so much for making it here today, finding time for our conversation and sharing your experience and your practical advice.
Oh, it's great to be here, Vlad, and thank you for that kind introduction. I'm thinking, who are you talking about there? But no, thank you, and it's great to be here. And having conversations with like-minded people is what we're about.
Yeah, well, I have a lot of questions today, and I'm really excited about this conversation with you about advanced communication. And being a coach, it is very helpful to know what is really important about advanced communication. But before that, I really would like to hear your story about, how did you become a communication coach? How do you come to this role? How do you find this purpose? What's your story, Brett?
Wow, how long have you got, Vlad? That's a great question. So mine was a bit of an interesting story where I actually didn't start out as a communication coach. It was never in my, at the time, it was never in my future. It wasn't something that I decided, you know what, I'm going to be a communication coach. I wanted to become a behavioral psychologist. Now, I didn't have a clue what that looked like, who I would work with, who I wouldn't work with. But what I did know is I wanted to become a behavioral psychologist. So what I did, I thought, you know what? What's the first thing that I need to do? First and foremost, get a degree. So when I got a degree, I wasn't working in the industry at all. So I wasn't working in the professional development or the professional services industry at all. So I didn't have a basic clue about this industry at all. So what I did, I went to a career advisor, and the career advisor said to me, do you know what? If you want a career in psychology, what you need to do is you need to start at the bottom. So you need to start at the bottom and work your way up, because that will give you credibility, but it will also give you the experience that you really need. So, and I asked her, where is that bottom? And she says, you need to go and work in a care home. So, of course, what type of care home? So it's quite interesting. So the first job I ever had in this industry was working with the elderly in a care home, in a residential home. So working with people from probably 80 years old up until, I think we had a resident that was 104. So it was at this point where I started to understand human behavior on a deeper level. So when I was working in this industry, so obviously working with these residents, I found that I loved human interaction. I loved people, and it was my kind of, how can I word it? There's no other way of putting it, but it was kind of my bag, my gift, that I really loved connecting with others. I used to love hearing their stories. They used to motivate me, inspire me some of the stories, I mean, until you've had a conversation with somebody on their deathbed, do you know what? I mean, some of the conversations I had were phenomenal. I'll need to write a book on that one day. But anyway, so that was the idea of becoming a behavioral psychologist. So again, I still didn't know what I was going to do with that. So the next point, I thought, okay, I need now to move on and get more qualifications, get more experience. So I went to work with abused and traumatized kids in care home. So very challenging, very, very challenging job. And I spent about 3 years working in the care home with children with severe behavioural issues, such as multiple personality, which is actually dissociative identity disorder, and with challenging behaviours. And it was at this point, lad, when I really recognised the importance of communication. So as you can imagine, working with children who you have to connect with them. When I say I use the word, and you might hear a lot today, on a deeper level, it's because of this job. I used to have to connect with these children on a deeper level to really help them on their journey, help them to get the therapeutic need, the therapy they needed, help them to get the life that they wanted, help them to inspire them, to motivate them. But more importantly, at that point, well, say it's not more importantly, that's more importantly, but at the same time, I recognized the science behind communication, and I was really fascinated by the brain's role and how it had an impact. And actually, by understanding the brain, we can understand the verbal and non-verbal communication. And I found it really, really interesting. So obviously, the job itself was fascinating and fantastic, and I got a lot out of it. And the children I work with, you know, I'll never forget it. But again, I was on the career journey. Did I want to be a behavioral psychologist still? Did I want to become a communication coach? I still didn't know. But what I did know, I loved human behavior. So the next bit was, you know what? I need to progress further. And by this stage, I had accumulated a lot of qualifications and experience. And if I'm completely honest, lad, maybe a little too much. Maybe I focused too much on getting the qualifications because I wanted, and I think I can resonate with a lot of people probably listening to this. I kind of didn't believe at that point I was good enough to do it. So I wanted to collect every certificate possible, every coaching certificate, everything possible. Do I regret it? No, I don't. But it was an interesting journey, to say the least. So the next point was I joined the prison. So again, because of the qualifications that I had accumulated, because of the experience, I call it real world experience working at that level, I then could apply to work in a prison. So I went to work in a prison as a /psychologist, mentor, coach, working with serious offenders from anything, working, petty crime, all the way up to multiple kills. So you could call it a serial killer, more than 3, and paedophiles and rapists. So again, this was where it really amplified, where I could see that communication was vital, massive, absolutely huge. And my skills in communication in the early days of doing these trainings and all these different things really paid dividends working with offenders in prison. Because what it allowed me to do, Vlad, was connect with them on that deeper level. And again, I use that term again, connect on a deeper level, because it really did. And I found that by connecting on that deeper level, I could move mountains for them, and they could move mountains for themselves. And I got so many good results from serious offenders in prison. And I always thought, wow, if I can get offenders in prison to make major shifts like that, imagine what I could do in the business world. So, interesting story is, to summarize that story, should I say, is when I was working in this prison, the managers and the team around me started to see big results. And when I say big results, they started to see this guy is connecting with people, his communication strategy is different to what we've seen. There was not so much red tape about what I was doing. It was more really connecting with them. You know, I mean, to be quite honest, I even did a magic trick with one of them just to get into their world. And it's all communication. But what really spurred it on then, Vlad, is that they asked me to train the offender. So they asked me to train the officers in within the prison and other psychologists and other coaches and consultants and mentors on verbal and non-verbal communication and hostage negotiation. So because of the communication skills I had and the qualifications, they could see firsthand the benefit. So I started then to train new people coming in. And that's really when I really, if you, it's almost like the tire hits the tarmac. I thought, do you know what? This is what I want to do because I could see the impact it had. Now, when I say the impact, you imagine a psychologist coming into the prison to work with an offender. They are highly qualified, highly good at what they do. They really are fantastic people. However, some of them, and this is not all, some of them lacked in that communication. So they understood the theory, but they couldn't put it into practice with the offender because they couldn't connect with them on a deeper level. Yeah. So there was a gap there, and I used to think if you could just connect with them on that deeper level, you have so much to give them, but they're not allowing you in because you're not building that bridge, as it were. So I intervened and helped them to communicate and connect, and that for me was amazing because first and foremost, the offender would get the true value of what we do, get to the true value of psychology. They would really get the true value of self-development, discovery, addiction therapy. I could go on, but they'd get the true value from the professional. And also the offender could then go on and do some great things because, it's quite interesting that people label offenders, as bad people. From what I've seen, they're not all bad, but that's a different conversation for a different day. But anyway, it's an interesting one. So nature and nurture and all that. So at that point, I thought, you know what? I want to become a communication coach. But when I left the prison, when I got out of prison, I like to say, when I got out of prison, it was the big corporate world. So again, joining that corporate world it was like, it was a small fish in a big pond, and there were so many opportunities. And what I found myself doing is really working in communication and performance. So obviously, we spoke about they're both highly related. And so I started to then go to work with elite athletes in communication, lawyers in communication. And these were just kind of random at the time, but it was like it was kind of like I'd get an agent through a conversation, through somebody else I was having a conversation with who would get me on set to help a actor or actress, well, they like to be called actors nowadays, help them to prepare for a role or audition or to communicate to the camera, media training. And this was when I thought, do you know what? This is for me. I love it. I love the impact it has on society. I have so much of a big, as you probably, hopefully you can tell, I have a passion for it because I think communication, well, I know communication is critical for success. And especially nowadays, it's massive, especially with AI. I think people need to connect on that deeper level. And I thought in the future, people are going to want to be doing that more. So because of my expertise, because of that natural ability, because of that fascination, I found the niche to answer your question.
Thank you. That's a really fascinating story. I appreciate that, Brett, for sharing that. And I'm listening to you. I'm thinking like this is a story of a personal growth, and as much as it applies to you, at the same time, it applies to people who you actually touched and who you actually helped. Including the kids who are having a personality disorder, and you help them grow, you help them find themselves, and then people, offenders in prison, who I would say you may call them big children, because they actually have to find themselves, find their purposes. And this story of personal transformation is a story about personal growth, is about kind of abandoning your old identity and finding your new identity, a better identity. And it, it's even interesting that maybe, this, I kind of go back to this, the care home experience, and I'm thinking maybe people who actually shared with you their stories, they may be at that moment experiencing the personal growth, because when they share who they are, when they share what their purposes are, what they did, maybe they shared some secrets that they were never told anyone. They may experience a moment of personal growth, and you may be kind of relief of what they carry with themselves, never sharing to anyone. And that personal connection is so crucial in um, in finding yourself, crucial in understanding who you are and maybe understanding your experience. And I, I understand that when you go to the business world, in the business where there are so many successful people, and successful people may have like, well, I don't have any problems. Why do I need a communication coach? I'm not really a handicapped person. But but the thing is, it's not about getting from bad to good. It's about getting from great to superior. This is about
Mm,
getting out of your shell, because, you know, the personal growth doesn't stop when you're good. It's
absolutely.
about your ambition. It's about what you want in life. It's about setting new higher goals. It's about leaving your limiting beliefs behind. And well, those limiting beliefs actually are helping you to get where you are, but at some point it becomes limiting you. You actually need to understand what is holding you up to go to the next step. And this is what I'm seeing. People kind of cannot get really fully understand why they actually need this uh, advanced communication, why they need negotiation, why they need this empathetic, um, uh, skill of empathetic talk, connecting with people quickly and understanding them at a bit better level. And I'm reading your article. I actually, I wanted to even I even wanted to put it in the chat, because this is such a great article. Let me copy that link and put it in the chat. Oh, and I'm seeing there's a lot of greeting to you in the chat already, so I will read it in a moment. But I wanted to send this in the chat because it's an awesome article talking about how communication actually changes the dynamic of the conversation, how much more you can actually give people, how much more you actually can share and empower people when you can connect. And I wanted to ask you this particular, what is your experience? What do you see? Why communication is important? Why those successful people who have pretty much everything they dreamed of, why they actually seeking to get even better, and why they seeking the help from a communication coach? What do you think?
It's a good question, Vlad. And there's so many different answers to that question. But let me try and summarize it as much as I possibly can. And this is my opinion as well, because I work with different people at different levels. So I can work with somebody who, you know what, who they're not that great at communicating, but they're aware they're not that great at communicating. So what they need to do is, just be better than where they're at. So that means that they learn more about themselves, how they communicate, but they also start to understand how other people communicate, and that can be enough for some people. But again, um, you know, that's advanced communication, because if I'm honest, I believe that anybody who communicates with intention is advanced to a certain extent. There's advanced. I mean, we could go on all day. I mean, I work with some people on hostage negotiation, but that's advanced. So, but to normal people, to business world executives, doesn't really matter. Advanced communication is, for me, is anybody who wants to take it to that next level, advance from where they're at, but also do it with intention. Now, it's interesting for what I see. So I can work with normal people who, like I've just said, will just take it from A to B. But I can also work with a Hollywood actor, and people often say to me, Hollywood actors are so confident. They are so good. You know, that's what they do. They communicate. How do you think they do that? Through training. They do it through having somebody like me in their corner, through having a consultant, having a movement coach. They do it because if they didn't, then they would find it hard because every role they take on, and yes, they can get into character, but in order, so it's quite interesting, Vlad, because I can work with an actor who, sorry, there are some actors out there who will take on a role and just run with the role and just do it and just do it they see best. But the best actors I've seen are the ones who go, do you know what? I want to embed that role and I want to become that role. And that means getting a movement coach, a communication coach, getting a voice coach to work with me, a script analysis, and to really understand that role and then take their, so in order to take their communication, because it's all communication, all acting's communication, to communicate to that next level. But again, in with executives, with high performance lawyers, exactly the same. The rules change as you get higher. You have to negotiate at a higher level. You have to talk to people at a higher level, you know. And it's interesting that there are a lot of people in my program right now who are more advanced than most people. Now, if they're more advanced and normal people are having conversations with them, the people in my program have got an advantage, that competitive edge. So it pays for other people to kind of at least be at their level. So it's interesting. I have so many different, you know, there's so many different levels of this, where communication, you know, everyone's at certain levels and different levels. But I think that to summarize it in, you know, to answer your question, to summarize it better is anything anybody wants to do to take their communication to that next level for me is advanced. It really is, because you are being intentional about it. And any little thing you can do makes a huge difference.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'm fascinated about how deep the body of knowledge in communication is. There's so much to learn. And you may think like, well, I'm good. Am I bad at communication? No, I'm a good communicator already. But the thing is, it's a spectrum, and you cannot see the end of it. I mean, if you think about, let's say, a hostage negotiator, and I actually have a upcoming session with a hostage negotiator, an acting hostage negotiator who is actually doing that for 18 years as part of a negotiation practice community that I organized. And um, what the details they notice when they talk to people, they think they think about not what to say and not how to say it, but why people saying what they're saying and what they are not saying. You kind of read between the line, and they actually noticing the little cues like your micro expressions. They may notice your breathing patterns. They may notice that they change the color of your skin, and like we have no clue about this, like what they're noticing, because they're so advanced. There's a challenge for them to actually do the basic stuff because of so much practice, and there's so much feedback and working with the coaches of different kinds. And this is amazing how far you can go when you practice negotiation or advanced communication on a regular basis. And I really appreciate people who recognize that. And it's interesting that the people who actually are good at this, they all of a sudden they realize that they need to learn even more.
Mm.
They realize that, well, when I passed this, when I started to learn about this, and this is what happens to people who come to the negotiation practice community. First, they come and like, how do I make a label? And then after they get good at this, they're like, wow, this is the whole world of communication open up to me that I want to learn this and this and this and this. And they're so excited about, trying different things and applying this in the real life. And I actually wanted to dig a little bit into kind of one of the areas. You mentioned the kind of like a normal communication or for like intermediate communication and advanced communication. And um, I was excited to kind of pick your brain about like what advanced communication means to you. Like, how do you understand your advanced or above average? What it actually takes to become an advanced communicator? How long does it take? Is it really difficult? Is it a normal person come to you and after a training or so, uh, start to feel like I'm really above average? How does it look?
So I think I've mentioned it before. So I kind of have like, and again, this is through like 21 years of experience now when I say this. And you know what? It's an interesting one because I feel as though, like I said earlier, there's tiers. So there's different tiers. So I believe there are people out there, and this is through experience that people have come to me as well. There are some people out there who really, really struggle. So they are very introverted. They really struggle to socially awkward, and they don't want to be anymore. So there's that level. Then you've got, again, the next level is like, you know what? I'm not socially awkward. I'm okay at communicating. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. And these people here, for me, are, I'd say, the majority of the population where they just communicate on a daily basis. They don't think about it. They don't really do it intentionally. They don't really read people. They don't understand how they communicate. They might think sometimes I can be direct, but they don't think sometimes I can be direct, but maybe I should tone that back a little bit. They don't understand. They might see other people hear other people being direct and think they're being rude, but that's kind of as much as it goes. And there's that level of person. But then there's the next level of person, and this is where I find that there's a lot of there's business owners and entrepreneurs where I go, do you know what? I realize now that I have to communicate at a high level. I really do. I have to communicate at somewhat high level, whether it's through content, through copywriting.
Hmm.
But if we're talking about human interaction, whether I'm having new business deals, whether I'm converting prospects into clients, whether I'm building relationships, I have to be, I have to dress smart. I have to be smart. I have to, I have to to wear the appropriate clothes. That's advanced. I mean, I know we do it to a certain extent. Normal people do it in their normal life, but I think in the business world we do it a little bit more. But then there's also within that level, that tier there, you've got the people who go, do you know what? I need to get better at networking. So I'm maybe gonna, how can I infiltrate a group of people speaking, and they might look that little bit up. But sometimes with that tier of person, that's as far as it goes. And then you've got what I call the advanced, where they go, do you know what? I understand I need to do that. I'm in a world where it's relationship based. So you know what? I need to be better at relationships. Yes, I might be the best psychologist in the world. I might be the best coach in the world. But if I can't communicate, I'm not eating this month. And that for me is where they go, do you know what? I need to understand my own communication. I need to understand other people's communication. I need to understand what communication is. I haven't got to be what I call a Jedi in it yet. I haven't got to become Yoda. But what I do need to understand is build relationships better. And especially if you are a coach or psychologist, if you work with humans, human interaction through your practice or whatever, you should be good at communication. So for me, that level is advanced communication. But then you got a higher tier. And that's where, for me, that's where you've got the hostage negotiation, the higher end negotiation, the tactical negotiation, the decision influencing at a higher level. That's where you've got the actor who goes, you know what? I need to manage perception when I speak. I'm in, a recent court case with Amber Heard. I know she had a communication coach. Clearly not a great one, by all accounts, because she ended up worse. But how she came across in the stands wasn't great. at all. Now, that's advanced as well. So that level, the actor who's got to prepare for that role, the leader, the CEO who's got to influence a group of people, a football manager who's got to influence the team, influence the community, influence the fans, influence the board. For me, that's more advanced communication.
Yeah,
So those are
yeah,
the tiers for me.
yeah. It's fascinating. Actually, John Maxwell said that leadership is all influence. Yeah,
Absolutely.
all influence. So the bigger leaders, and they are great communicators. They are great influencers. And though they have a lot of power, they rarely use the power. They use their authority when they actually, communicate to people. And the principle of authority is very important. At the same time, they don't rely on authority. They rely on the clear message. And in most cases, improving communication is avoiding miscommunication.
Yeah.
And this is so important to understand where your communication fails, and so important, what really makes a difference in communication. And I'm wondering if you could give us a little bit of snippet, like what is one practical communication tool that you usually teach your clients that is easy to understand and really gives you a quick result, and that really excites the clients. I
Now,
need to mute myself. I'm hearing some noises here, but I will be with you, Brett. You go ahead.
yeah, so it's quite an interesting one. So there are multiple ones, as you know, but I think the most beneficial for me and for the clients that I work with is to simplify it, because there's so many misconceptions out there. There's so much noise out there, especially where communication's involved, is to understand your own communication style, because that's where it starts for me. I mean, obviously I have worked with people in negotiation, as you do as well, higher negotiation and different things. But you can do negotiation, but if you don't understand how you communicate and your communication style, then it gets lost, or it's not as effective. So for me, the first thing that I get anybody to do is, first and foremost, is a self-assessment to see where they fit on that level, as it were, but also then to understand the communication style. Without a doubt, I think it's one of the best things I've done with nearly every one of my clients. In fact, I think it's one of the best things I've done personally. And again, I know where I am. I know I can overspeak. I know what I do, but I know when to hone it and when not to hone it. So if I'm working with a CEO, a very direct CEO, do you know what? I'll tone it down. I'll be very direct, but because he likes it. But I know that. So to bring it back to your question, the most important thing for me and the simplest thing is to understand their communication style. And as soon as they do that, I believe it opens up a world for you. It's almost like you'll see and hear what you didn't before. You'll start to see the world differently. Now, we could go further on that and talk about body language, but we won't. But that opens up a whole different world. But if you can understand somebody's communication style, your own communication style, it will open the door to understand other people's communication styles. Once you do that, you can connect. But it's interesting that there's lots of profiles out there about communication styles and all these different things, and they're great, fantastic. I use them myself, but half the time, a lot of your listeners will probably agree, they get left in the drawer. People do these communication, profiles and just leave them in the drawer. The behavioral profiles, leave them in the drawer. They don't actively use them and actually understand them and practice them. And I think you've got an area on your, I think it's on, like you host, isn't it, where it's a practice and skill session. This is the type of thing I'm talking about. Practice it. So the number one thing for me, without a doubt, is understand your communication style. And that's the tip that I give to most people, because what I don't like doing, I don't like to give lots of little tips that they can go away and use incorrectly. And I see it quite interestingly on the web, you know, reading body language and deception and all this. A lot of it is poppycock. It really is. It's a lot of it is, you know, it's marketed, and a lot of it's not real. It's for sales. It has its place massively, but you've just got to read between the lines, and you've got to understand the fact from the fiction. But the first point, definitely communication style.
Thank you, Brad. That's really important. I'm wondering if there is any tip you can give related to understanding that communication style, maybe for somebody who really, even before they come to you, maybe there's a tip to say like, oh, I am a driver, or oh, I'm I don't know, analytical or something like that, that somebody would recognize, that very quickly and easily, and kind of guess what communication style. I mean, what could be a little bit more practical advice here, um, in achieving this goal of understanding your communication style?
Very simple for me, Vlad, and that's slow everything down. And when I say that, imagine you're playing a video. Imagine not playing a video. Yeah, you've got a DVD on, and then you put it on slow mo, and it's going. You know, it's playing slow, so you can see that. Ooh. Imagine that. People need to start doing that in their communication, and start to just sit back and listen a little bit more, and be more vigilant, and watch, listen, and really hear. And so the tip I would give there's a couple of tips there. First and foremost, like, slow everything down and become a people watcher, a people listener. Someone said to me the other day, you know, if you could give one thing, one thing, one tip to somebody that could really make the biggest difference in their life, where communication, and I'll give it to you now, and that's become a people watcher. Just sit back. And I'm sure a lot of people watching this now are people watchers. You know, when you're in a restaurant, look at their body language, look at what their feet's doing in context of the conversation. When you are in a conversation, watch what they're doing, how one's direct and the other one's not. Watch what their body language is doing. Just watch, slow it down and watch. And it just opens up a world to you, because you'll see things differently, and then it makes you think, do you know what? They're more direct because they are asking direct questions. They're a bit more forceful. So type A, they're asking those direct questions. Their body language is a bit more firm. They're a bit more aggressive. When I say aggressive, you know what I mean. They're more aggressive in their tone, maybe.
More direct.
Yeah, more direct. So, and again, you know, more influential, a bit like myself. I'll talk with my hands. I'll be a bit more expressive. My body language can also be very open. Again, and you'll see this. Somebody who's more analytical and detailed will be sitting back, a bit more observant, won't give too much away. But these are the things that kind of give you an indication of how somebody does communicate. And eye contact as well, you know, all these little things, but it all comes down to, Vlad, people watching. I have some of the best conversations with people about people watching. It's brilliant. Just watch people in context, in conversations, and you see. It's almost like part of my my training. What I do, I get people to go away for a few days and actually do people watching. And some of their stuff they come back with about their own family they didn't see before, just because they stopped and they listened and they watched. But obviously, be subtle about it.
I apologize. I have the big noise close to me right now. So one question here is, what are the most common mistakes that you have seen people do, or maybe not do, that kind of slow down their progress and maybe kind of really defeat their goals?
Good question. I think there's a couple of things actually, Vlad. If I can just elaborate slightly, I think I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there. You know what I mean, about communication, like, oh, do this, do this, do this, do this. There's so many things. especially around non-verbal communication. You know, about the Moravian. So much 93% is all non-verbal. Everything is taken out of context. Yes, it has its place, but it's taken out of context. So sometimes I always say, separate the fact from the fiction, and get on board with somebody who actually has experienced it firsthand, and who can really help you there. So that's the first one: separate the fact from the fiction. And the second one is, there's a lot of people out there that don't think they can become advanced communicators, because that's just not me. I'm not very good with people. I'm not. They think it's almost like they're born with it. They're born with a negotiation or influencing skills or communication skills. And from what I've seen, yes, there are some people, they are very good at this. Some people, natural, charismatic, people warm to them, and they do have what I like to call that Jedi ability. However, most people can learn this. And I always believe, well, I don't believe, I know this for a fact in my experiences as well, that confidence comes from competence. So the more competent you become, the more confident you become. And I always say to my clients as well, just imagine what your life, career, and bank balance could look like if you can see and hear what most people can't. Imagine the confidence that you'll have in every conversation. And that's not talking about, you haven't got to be a Jedi Master. You can just be more advanced than most people. And that's not to manipulate, to anything else, just to understand them on a deeper level. So definitely that competence and confidence, people don't feel as though, oh, that's just not me. But to give you a tiny little bit of a story there, my partner, she works within my business as well, and we are completely different end of the scale. So I'm direct influencer. So sometimes I have to watch that with her, because she is the opposite end. So she's more of an analytical, detailed. She's slower. So when I'm speaking to her, I'm enthusiastic, I'm motivational, inspirational. Where she's like, do you know what? That's great, but I need a tick sheet. Give me a tick sheet. But she believed, before we got into the whole communication thing, that she couldn't change. She believed I'm not a people person. I'm quite socially awkward. But when she started to get ingrained into this business, she started to learn that actually I can, because it's a skill that can be honed and developed over time. And what she's done now, she understands my communication style. Well, understood hers, understand mine, and now it gives her more confidence when she's interacting with anybody, because she knows how to change it up, and she's conscious of it. But if you would have asked her like 15, 20 years back, she would have said, do you know what? This is not me. I'm not you. I can't do that. But her belief was, you know what? You're born with it. And that's just poppycock. You're not. There are some people who have got the ability, let's be honest, but majority aren't, and it can be learned.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I refer again to John Maxwell, and he is saying what you can get out of your communication is what you actually put in. Whatever you get out of communication, you have to put in. Whatever you put in, you get out. So if you don't
Yes.
learn, if you don't practice, like, don't expect that you will be a good communicator. You actually have to pay attention. You need to train yourself. Read the books about communication, read the books about relationship, take trainings. It's important, because the very success depends on it, because this is your growth, this is your transformation. And yeah, I also remember one quote from Van Gogh. And Van Gogh is a painter, a famous painter, and he said, if there is even a small thought that you cannot paint and it doesn't work for you, by all means paint, and that thought will go away. So
Yeah, absolutely. And again, people, they see what I do and go, oh, it's really, really, really advanced. And yes, there is some of that, but really, it's just more advanced than where you are now. So where I say advanced communication, it's more advanced than where you are now. It's doing it with intention, and it's all science based as well, backed up with science. But if you can just take it to that next level, you'll then will be able to take it to that next one and then
Yeah.
that next one. But it is step by step. But it's well, Vlad, communication starts wars, it ends wars, it
Yeah.
it starts divorce, it ends divorce, it negotiates $1 billion deals, $1 million deals, $100 deal, hundred, you name it. And people often go, do you know what? I didn't think I need communication. Really? It's the fundamental of everything. And especially if you are, in our space, the coaches, consultants, psychologists, it's human interaction. And if you've got to connect with them on a deeper level, get into their world, have that conversation, that deep conversation, connect with them. Because until you do that, you're never gonna help them make the change that they desire. You're really not. And especially going forward, Vlad, you know, I know I've mentioned this before, with the AI and everything that, people are going to seek out human connection more and more and more and more. And the ones who can connect on that deeper level are going to succeed in the business in the business world, without a doubt. And the ones who can't will be replaced. And it's unfortunate, but I really do believe that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I also feel like the AI may compete with human for the ability to have a greater connection with human. And I think that what's going to happen, we go like in waves. So first, the AI will take over, and everybody will be like, "Oh, I love this AI. They speak so nice to me." But when the people realize that AI always does that, it will be kind of boring. It will be like, "I know AI can do this. I know." And people will again start to seek human connection, the real one, the original one. And this is where you actually will need your skills, because if you're not good at communication, it will be drastically different from the superpower, supercomputer power. Then you will not be able to establish it. And a lot of it is about establishing that connection. And I think of it like a gym. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you need your strength once in a blue moon. But if you don't go to gym, you're not gonna have it when you need it. So you actually need to pay every day in order to gain the results you need. So the same thing, you actually need to establish connection to people and establish relations to people to actually progress. And maybe people think like, oh, a success in life is like instant, like you get a good deal and you're good. But no, this is not like this. Success comes to you like a tsunami. It's like a water raising up and raising up and raising up. Why water raising up? It's because it's more water. So that means you need to establish a good relationship with this person, with that person, reach out to people, increase your network, establish good connection, know how to quickly project the respect, the interest, the curiosity, have that empathetic conversation and connect with people so they actually remember you, they come to you. And then it raises your chances for success, because the good things start to come back like water raising, like tsunami. And there is no chance to not to succeed, because you build so much. So you need to actually build your success every day versus having that one critical conversation where everything is at stake. So it
Yeah,
doesn't work this
absolutely. I
way.
mean, we talk about the AI, just to touch on the AI slightly as well. I see a lot of people now. I'm not here, preaching that AI is not great, because I think AI has so many applications. It's so good. It really is. I mean, I've got an AI coach myself. I mean, I've got multiple coaches, but I have an AI coach because I wanted to see how good I've named her. Her name's Donna. How good she actually is. And let me tell you, Vlad, she's very good. She's very impressive, and she will get better. She really will. But is it how I'm communicating with her?
Yeah.
It's quite interesting, and how she's responding to it. But anyway, but the point is, I see all these people having these more application with AI, more automating more stuff. And I keep saying no. Get on, instead of having automation with messaging and all that, send them a voice note,
Yeah.
connect with them. And I have seen a huge difference. It's like when everyone's going left, you go right. You go right, you connect, keep the fundamentals of business hasn't changed. Let's be honest, it's relationships.
Yeah.
The way we do it might be different, but let's be honest, that voice, the tone, connect with them, and that will pay dividends. Trust me, in the future, now and in the future, always has, but even more so now and in the future, when everyone else is automating. And when I say everybody, not everybody, but you get the point. A lot of people are. Connect with them, have a conversation, get in on LinkedIn, get in the DMs with them, have a call, have a coffee call. And I see so many people say, Brett, but I don't want to be giving my time away for free. Let me tell you this. I have had 6-figure years from a free conversation. One conversation that was like 10 minutes that most people would not have had. And don't ever that time building a relationship with somebody, it doesn't matter who it is, leads somewhere. Or I've got a 1,000 stories like that from having different conversations. So every conversation you can have, and I know a lot of people, your listeners today will understand that, but are they doing it? And I hope you are. But it's interesting because for where the future's going, connection's the key.
Absolutely. We're all in the relationship business. So business is
Absolutely.
all relationship, management and relationship, leadership is relationship. So it's so important. So we actually need to kind of wrap up here. And I want to ask you the last question here before I look at the questions that we have in the chat. Um, uh, what do you think is a key to succeeding in improving your communication skills? And also, what would you recommend to someone who is just starting and exploring advanced communication?
Okay, so the first thing I would do is just to sit back and go, do you know what? I might be okay. I might be a decent communicator. I might be okay. But just imagine for 1 second if you could take that up 10%. That's 10% better than most people. You will always have that advantage. You will be able to, especially in our industry, you'll be able to ask better questions in better ways. There's so many things you will be able to do with that. So just sit back and self-assess. So what I have available is what I call the People Intelligence Assessment Quiz. So people can go to my LinkedIn if they wish. Go to my LinkedIn, follow me. If you want to actually drop me a DM, tell me that you listen today, and follow me, and we'll have a conversation. I'm happy to do that as well. But also, there's a quiz on my profile where you can take. It's about 5 minutes it takes, and it kind of assesses where you're at, and it gives you a score. Yes, it's not perfect. It's just a quiz to give you an assessment, to give you an understanding of where you may be lacking and how good you are as well. Because that's an interesting one as well. So that is probably the first point I would do, take the quiz. But then I also, I offer a 3-day, 3-hour program. So it works. I think the next one is on the 31st of January.
Yep.
Next year.
Yep.
And it's the 30th of January. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for an hour each night. And basically, what we cover is this advanced communication. So, what you'll learn on that is why communication now more than ever is important, and some skills to use, some applicable skills, some practical skills, Vlad, that you can use like tomorrow. And that is, I would say, have a look at that. And you know what? If you think, well, you know what, this is something that you would really benefit from, then it's a great place to start.
Yeah.
And getting onto things like yours, like your on your programs, on your influencing, listening, hearing, just taking part in some of your lives. But also you've got the where you the practice sessions you have. I mean, some of the best results I see from some of my clients where they do improv. So they do acting improv. So they do the improv, just learning. It's learning to think on your feet, critical thinking, all those types of things. But to answer your question, first place to start, assess where you're at, and then go, do you know what? I want to take it to that next level. and just take your time doing that as well, because it doesn't happen overnight. But when I say it doesn't happen overnight, the change happens overnight. Where it's interesting. People just read some of my reviews and some of the testimonials. People, they start to see the world differently because it's interesting, because it opens up a world to you that you didn't see before. Not everyone wants that as well, to be honest. But if you do, then it's a great place to start.
Absolutely. And thank you very much, Brett, for generosity of your offer of this wonderful seminar for 3 days. And by the way, I am a ethical influence and empathetic negotiation coach, and I sign up for your seminar. It's not like I'm bad at communication, but I'm so excited to learn from you because I'm sure that there are many epiphanies that I'm going to have when learning from you and your experience and how to connect to people. I teach how to connect to people. I have the program called 7 Levels of Nurturing. It's about connecting to people on multiple levels, so levels of depth. And we define those levels of depth so you can actually understand on which level you are. Are you talking about the aspirations? Are you talking about dreams and hopes? Or are you talking about values and principles? It's a deeper level. Are you talking about identity and purpose? It's a deeper level. Are you talking about this survival experience when you actually form your identity when you're younger? Maybe something happened, something dramatic happened to you, a transformational experience. This is a meaning that you're creating of your life. This is how you define yourself, if you would, on which level you are. And and at the same time, well, I know all of this, but I'm excited to understand what you have there and what is your experience. And it's not about getting from bad to good, it's about getting from good to great. And I'm sure many people will be excited. Let me do this. I will get the link. Send me a link and I will post it in the comments of the session so everyone who is on the call, maybe watching this call later, can actually click that link and get to your free 3-day seminar. No kidding. It's like gold. And if you miss that, I don't know. It's really a big miss because you're not gonna get that. Chris Voss is charging $7,000 for 3-day seminar or 2-day seminar. $7,000. His community cost $10,000. This is that how much it actually costs. So thank you very much, Brett, for generosity of your offer. I really appreciate that. And
I
for
appreciate that.
yeah, for the audience who wants to join the negotiation practice community and practice, I actually also have easy start sessions. So this is for people who just want to start, get a taste of what it takes to become a negotiator, become advanced communicator. So come to easy start sessions and learn how to do the basic stuff so you can get more of understanding of why it works, what works, and maybe find what works for you. So yeah, thank you very much, Brett.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
No, absolutely. Like with you as well, Vlad. You coming onto my program, which is great, and vice versa with you. Every day is a school day, and there's something to learn. People label me like, "Oh, he's an expert at what he does." Yes, I'm very well knowledgeable. Yes, I understand it, real world experience.
mhm,
However, every day is a school day, and I'm learning from all people all the time. I know Chris Voss, great guy, great skills, different applications, different versions, different ideas, different ideals. It's great, but all taking these variations of things. And that's why I come onto yours as well, because there's always something that you'll say that I go, oh, that's interesting. Yes.
yeah.
So it doesn't really matter, how good you think you are. You can always be better.
Of course, of course. Thank you very much, Bert. I wanted to read some of the questions here, and we have a number of them. So I just wanted to go through the chat and read some of the chat messages. So a lot of thank you for different people. Aurica and Fimia and
Always
this
for me.
Fimia, yeah, Fimia.
You talk about relationships and community. For me,
Oh,
as
that's
your go-to
awesome.
girl.
That's awesome. I think Fumia is online right now and she's saying hi everyone. So hi Fumia, thank you very much for joining. And Erica is saying, what is the major difference in adult behaviors and child behaviors and supporting goals?
Oh, say that again. Sorry, Vlad, you broke up.
What was the major difference in adult behaviors and child behaviors in supporting goals?
Oh, communication, communicating, um, helping them to understand. So first and foremost, it was definitely the communicating to a child, to adult, two different things, massively, I found. So for argument's sake, I mean, adults, I've worked with many of them, but it is really that communication. They have different ideas of what the goal is and what the meaning to that goal. So it's just connecting with them, what that goal means to them. So with a child, for argument's sake, they'll have a goal, and we just do it. We just have that conversation differently. So that I'd say that was the biggest difference, but also the action that someone takes actually as well. The action that a child will take, they'll maybe get distracted a lot. Where adults, they not all of them, but they tend to take the action and get the results.
Yeah, good question. I appreciate that. And Erica
Very good
actually,
question.
yeah, and Erica actually asking other questions. She's saying, is it true that we age backwards, adults just old children? I think there's a little bit of humor in this question.
Yes, yeah. Is it Benjamin Button? Yes.
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
well, that's an interesting one. I'm not sure on that one. From a science point of view, you know, you might be have something right there. I mean, it's quite interesting actually. I think where the context of that question comes from, because I've worked with people at that end of the scale, you know, like 100 plus to very young people, I'll actually say yes, in a way. I just think, not that I'm saying the elderly are children, but you know there are similarities in certain things. But the stories of working with the elderly, wow, wow. If you want to a new perspective on life, speak to somebody who's not got long to live.
Yeah, yeah, and that's very interesting question. I also wanted to answer this. We have little time, but very briefly, I think that we have multiple identities and we keep childhood identities with us. So many times we say, well, let's wake up the inner child. The inner child is your identity, live within you, and you can wake it up and you can keep it. And sometimes we go through different difficult time in our life. For example, maybe somebody's bullying you, maybe you're experiencing a loss, and you actually create a different survival identity, and you kind of cover, you layer your original identity of an innocent, curious, and excited inner child. In order to uncover that, you need to understand what happened to you and remove that limiting belief. So that inner child will go, and it may be a giant within you, living within you. You don't even know because you are so layered, protecting that inner child from being hurt. But that protection may actually serve as a shell, but we need to get out of the shell. We need to start flying at some point, right?
It's interesting you say that because it's quite an interesting one where you know when we were children we had the dreams, the aspirations, all this. What happened? What happened? You know, for a lot of people, and I'm sure there's a lot of people doing what they dreamt of doing, but society got in the way, conformity got in the way, negative belief, limiting belief, all of these things get in the way. But if we remove those, that's a different psychological, deep conversation. But if we remove these things, wow. But again,
Yeah,
it's still communication, internal communication.
yeah, of course, and personal, self-connection, so to speak. Sometimes you need to connect with yourself as well. Let me
Oh,
read you.
absolutely.
Yeah, let me read some of the other questions here. Was communication the connection, or was it your presence that built the connection?
Both.
Okay.
I would say in well, I don't know in what context they're talking there, but however, there is that both. That there is that presence as well because there is that natural charisma. Some people do have that, but that communication as well because Some people I can be very charismatic sometimes, but not everyone loves that. Not everybody loves that, and I have to tone that back and be more intentional. So I would have to morph. I think Bruce Lee said, "Be like water. If you put water into the cup, it becomes the cup. Put it into a teapot, it becomes the teapot." He was talking about martial arts. I refer to it in communication,
Yeah,
morph. So it's a bit of both to answer that question, but it was intentional on the communication side.
absolutely. Yeah, communication skill is a skill. And when you actually just present there and you're giving your time to people, it's important. At the same time, it's important actually what you ask. It's
Mm.
important. It's important to deliberately lead in the conversation. If you're not leading, you're being led, and you can get lost in the small details that do not make a lot of sense or do not make a lot of difference. But you actually, if you know how to lead, you can go to the root of that limiting belief and you can actually uncover the hidden potential there. It's important to deliberately practice communication skills in order to really make an impact.
And
So,
absolutely, and this is what you talk about where I know we've got limited time, but even when we talk about the coaching and psychology and all this, and these people who work with other people, helping them take their life to the next level, as it were, connecting with them on that deeper level and really getting there deep, it's critical. And anything you can do to make that better, do it, because I've seen dramatic changes in clients. If you can see on somebody's face what they're not telling you, and then ask a question because they're not telling you that, and they would say, well, for argument's sake, they would say, well, I was just thinking that,
yeah,
but did I say it? No, you didn't. But your body told me. They might not have said it. And imagine if they hadn't said it, you would have gone down a different road with them.
exactly. Yeah, it's like gold mining. If you just don't dig,
Absolutely.
it stay covered under the surface. Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Let me finish reading that. So, um, Eric is saying, I'm interested in that conversation, Brett. Why are offenders not always a bad person? I think, Brett, you need to take a call with Erica and you discuss it.
Absolutely.
It's actually a really deep conversation that maybe we can put together another. But I think reaching out to Erica, and maybe Erica, if you're hearing us right now, it will be great if you
Yes,
connect
connect
with
with me,
me.
Erica.
Yeah, and language barriers limiting success rates. Oh, this is very interesting.
Oh, can you not answer that one, Vlad?
Oh, absolutely. I would love to because I'm an
I think that's a good one
immigrant.
for you.
I'm an immigrant and I actually immigrated in 2006. When I immigrated, I had a lot of language barriers, but actually it's interesting. It plays bad and good, and it's good and bad at the same time. It is bad because you can't really express fully yourself, and people kind of assuming a lot about you. It's good because you have time to rethink who you are and change and adapt because without adoption, if you just put into the foreign environment and you're just expressing everything you have, you may reveal something that you really don't want to be and you really want to change. And it's like a buffer of time that you're buying. And when you
Mhm.
overcome the language barrier, over time, you're actually changing yourself and you're becoming, if you would, a better person. It's a transformation process. So don't be uh, don't be shy if you just came to the United States and you still feel like you have a language barrier. You cannot express yourself. It's actually your advantage, maybe. So I would like to invite all the immigrants who are listening right now to connect with me to discuss this kind of area of communication. I would love to help people like that.
Great answer.
Yeah, awesome. And I see Nika actually saying, thank you so much for the invitation, Vlad. And Erica is asking about AI. She said AI has commercialized and sensationalized unauthentic communication. Wow, this is very, very deep thought here.
Oh, yes. She needs to connect with me, Erica. I think we'll have a good conversation, I think.
Yeah, well, maybe we can have a whole AI conversation sometimes on
Oh,
audio room,
yes.
and maybe Erica will join and we'll we'll talk three-way then.
Yes, yes. That's why I call what I do people intelligence.
Yeah.
Because the artificial intelligence, or do you want to become people intelligent? I know which one I'd rather be. A bit of both, if I'm honest, but people intelligence, without a doubt, more.
We should call it AIPI.
Yeah, that's what I do. AIMPI. Which one do you want to
AI,
be? What do you want to do? The way you're going to
AI,
stand out through
yeah.
PI.
Combine both worlds and you will win. You will never
If you,
lose.
that's the thing. If you can, but the problem is everybody else is going to do the same. So where do you get that edge? And it's the people intelligence, because that's the connection. That's what people are craving, and they will crave it in the future.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Brett. We have to wrap
Very
up. It's
welcome.
already like 13 minutes over. And
Wow.
thank you so much for all your time. I appreciate this exciting conversation. And sounds like we uncovered more topics. Maybe we can put together another one going forward. I want to remind that Brett is advanced communication coach, and we will put the link in the chat after this call about the free course that Brett is offering in January. And I already signed up for this course, and I'm excited, looking forward to that. And please connect with Brett, and I encourage all my network to connect with Brett and learn about what he does. And I invite everybody to connect with me as well and learn about the negotiation practice community, and also come to the easy start sessions of mine as well. Brett, is there anything that you would like to say before we wrap up today?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for making this happen, actually, Vlad. And again, people often say about you and I and all the competitors, there's no such thing as a competitor. We are collaborators. We believe we are on the same mission, and we should be doing this. There's plenty to go around, and there's so much what we could value that we can bring to the community. So thank you very much, and thanks for hosting this. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Brett. All right, we'll see you around. Take
I'll
care,
see you soon.
everybody.
Take care. Bye bye. Thanks for listening.